not content with exposing themselves to worldwide mockery after the last anti-hate crime campaign.
And this is the official Twitter from Scotland Police. You can't be serious, man.
Police Scotland are at it again. Dear transphobes, we have a phobia of your hatred. Right, okay. What's a phobia? A phobia is an irrational fear. So what they're saying is, dear people with an irrational fear of transgendered people, we have an irrational fear of your hatred. What? People with a fear of transgendered people should be pitied. Could you imagine them cowering when a transgendered person approaches, having a panic attack? Hatred. What makes them think that these terrified people are full of hatred? They've got a phobia of this hatred. So their fear of this hatred is irrational. Well, I suppose since this hatred probably doesn't exist, that might sort of make sense. Even if it does make sense, what's it got to do with the police? Lots of people hate their boss, they hate their mother-in-law, they hate traffic wardens. Do you have a phobia of their hatred as well? Now, I'm going to give up trying to analyse this pearl of wisdom at that point. But just look at the bottom. Who's this message from? It's obviously paid for by Police Scotland. But the message is actually from Scotland. Now, it's not from me. Does that mean I'm not part of Scotland? Anyway, Police Scotland are spending your hard-earned cash on putting this incoherent gibberish on bus shelters. Now, fortunately, Police Scotland have also expanded on their message in other posters in their campaign. What have we got here? Dear transphobe. Okay, what's a transphobe? A transphobe is a person who fears or has a negative perception of trans people and or transsexuality or transgenderism. Well, that's me. When I express my belief that sex can't be changed and changing gender is not the best way to deal with gender identity disorder, I get called transphobic. That's the usual mainstream use of the word in Scotland in 2018. Now, I may say it's not fair to call me transphobic, it's a derogatory term, but that's part of public debate. People make up derogatory terms about their opponents. You know, tree huggers, Ramonas, whatever. Transphobe is that sort of term. So I might deny that label, but anyone who does use that term would probably apply it to me. So the police have got some questions for me. Do I think it's right to harass people in the street? No, of course I don't. Do I think it's right to push transgender people around in nightclubs? I'd say that's not applicable. Do I think I've got the right to humiliate, threaten and intimidate them online? Threaten and intimidate? No. Now, if they feel threatened and intimidated by a robust debate, well, that's tough. But physical threats and intimidation? Certainly not. Right, humiliated? Well, that's a different matter. If I think I've shown that someone's argument was feeble, they might feel humiliated. Again, that's bad luck. If you don't want that to happen to you, don't get into online arguments. But deliberate embarrassment and belittling? No. Well, we don't, say the police. Well, I agree as well, I think. What's next? That's why if we see you doing harm, we're reporting you. Doing harm? Is there a law against doing harm? I thought in this country you're allowed to do what you like unless it's against the law. Doing harm is too vague. You should want crimes to be reported, not these hate incidents, whatever they are. I'll make another video on that soon. We believe people should be allowed to be themselves. Now, what do you mean by that? That sounds like something from an Oscar acceptance speech. What does it mean? People should be allowed to be themselves, to choose their gender, self-declaration, without medical assessment, at any age. Allowed legally, morally, allowed to without criticism, without being the victim of a crime. Yes, that's your job to say that. But the usual understanding of a phrase like that, people can choose to be themselves, is a lot more than that in the context of transgenderism. And Police Scotland know that full well. Right, what do they have to say next? You've got the right to be yourself, except if you're spreading hate. Right, not committing crimes, they're saying, spreading hate. What's the hate message? I assume it's this transphobia, which is usually defined as disagreeing with queer theory and the whole idea of gender fluidity. Now, Police Scotland, where people are the victims of crime, catch the perpetrators and press charges. We're right behind you with that. If transgender people suffer attacks and abuse, I'm sure you'll be on the case, and best of luck in sorting that out. But you don't need to endorse a particular philosophy of gender in order to do that. Now, having published these posters, you'll get a pat on the head from the government and from Pink News, but you lose credibility with the wider public. There should be a section of society that really doesn't like the police very much, and they're called criminals. But with this sort of thing, you're making a new section as people who can't stand politically correct posturing. And that group includes a lot of people who would naturally be your greatest supporters, like me. Do subscribe to us on YouTube, have a look at our Facebook page. We are a political party. Do consider joining us, there's a link below, and thanks for watching.